Shabbat Shalom. So I'm very grateful to my beloved colleague, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl, and her unbelievably inspiring clergy team, as well as the remarkable lay leadership of Central Synagogue for inviting me to share a few words of Torah with you tonight. As you heard, the leadership of the URJ, the Union for Reform Judaism, our executive board, is here because we have our board meeting this weekend, and we also have, beginning on Sunday, the board of the Hebrew Union College. So if I could just say it simply, we got a lot of Reform leaders in the house tonight. So this Shabbat is Chayei Sarah. It's the Sabbath when we reflect on the lives of the towering biblical figures of Sarah and Abraham. And even though the Torah portion describes their deaths, we can't help but think of their lives and their lasting impact on us. And so too on this Shabbat, we remember Rabbi Alexander Schindler, and we think of him on this 25th yahrzeit. It's no exaggeration to say that Rabbi Alexander Schindler reshaped contemporary Jewish life during his 23 years at the UAHC, now known as the URJ, the Union for Reform Judaism. During his tenure, there were so many innovations, so many things that literally took us to an entire new dimension. But one in particular I'll just point out, during his tenure, the size of the movement grew from 400 member congregations in 1973 to almost 900 in 1995. That's a pretty remarkable growth. He was born in Munich, fled Germany in 1938, just in the nick of time, and arrived in the U.S. when he was just 12 years old. Rabbi Schindler went on to serve in the U.S. military with the ski troops of the 10th Mountain Division in Italy, earning a Purple Heart for wounds and a Bronze Star for bravery. Assuming the leadership of the movement on its 100th anniversary, his bold vision of an inclusive, activist, soulful, and relevant Judaism has become a hallmark not only of our Reform Jewish world, but also the wider Jewish world as well. Indeed, the most recent Pew surveys of North American Jewish life tell the story that almost 2 million people identify their Judaism with the Judaism of the Reform movement. And much of that surge is the result of Rabbi Schindler's expansive understanding of who is included in Jewish life. Rabbi Schindler knew that when it came to interfaith families, the Jewish community had to remove the not wanted sign from our hearts. Rabbi Schindler thought of interfaith families and said, stop doing this. Why don't we do this? Why don't we welcome? Well, in December of 1978, Rabbi Schindler began his formal outreach program to turn the previously harsh judgment that interfaith marriage elicited towards an elaborate series of programs that warmly welcomed interfaith families into Jewish spaces. In our parashah, when Abraham seeks to purchase a burial plot for Sarah, he identifies himself to Ephron the Hittite, saying, Ger v'toshav anochi imachem. Here, I am an outsider. I'm a stranger, not one of you. Like Rabbi Buchdahl, Abraham knew well that it meant that to experience the heart of a stranger would, for some people, turn them to bitterness. But what it did for Abraham, our patriarch, and what it did for Alexander, our inspired leader, is it made them even more convinced that the tent of Jewish life had to be open and all those keep out signs had to be torn down. Had Rabbi Schindler not opened the hearts of our movement to interfaith families, Rabbi Buchdahl might never have found her place in Jewish life. Can you imagine Jewish life without Rabbi Angela Buchdahl? And the thousands of families, interfaith families like hers? I can't. But lest you think that Rabbi Schindler's outreach program was received with cheers and excitement and joy and affirmation, the strong pushback tells a very different story. There was even stronger resistance to his promotion of the patrilineal descent definition of Jewishness, which said that if either your mother or your father was Jewish and you were raised in a Jewish family with a Jewish education, then you could be counted as a full member of the Jewish people. That was revolutionary. And defying such cynics' warnings, our reform movement is now by far the largest movement in North American Jewish life. This visionary opened our hearts, opened our minds, opened our movement, and look what has happened. There are so many people in this sanctuary tonight and online who are here because this man knew that we had to go in a different direction, and he took all of us with him. In the late 1970s, Rabbi Schindler also led the fight to include LGBTQ Jews in Jewish life, with his decision in 1974 to admit the first openly LGBTQ congregation, Beit Chaim Chadashim in Los Angeles, into our reform movement. And let me just tell you, having looked through the American Jewish archives, the pushback was fierce and immediate. His response wasn't to be dissuaded. Do you get the feeling of who this guy was? Dissuaded? That was not in the cards at all for him. What did he do after all that pushback? He doubled down on his commitment by fighting for same-sex marriages and that clergy in our movement should officiate at all those holy ceremonies. And he did that, which coincided, as you probably know, with the AIDS epidemic, which had so devastated the LGBT community. At roughly the same time that Rabbi Schindler was leading a revolution within the Reform movement, he took on the tremendously important role of chairman of the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations, as one of the most consequential leaders at one of the most consequential moments in the U.S.-Israel relationship. When Menachem Begin was elected as Israel's prime minister in 1977, the liberal American Jewish community, they weren't sure that they could even have a relationship with this prime minister who was such a right-wing ideologue. The entire American Jewish community said, we ought to just wait and see how this unfolds. That wasn't the plan that Rabbi Schindler had. He reached out immediately to Menachem Begin and conveyed the congratulations, not just of the reform, but the entire American Jewish community, and said, we're here, and I look forward to working personally, closely with you. So this liberal rabbi and this very conservative prime minister were a highly improbable duo. But nonetheless, they became very close friends and trusted colleagues. Their partnership was deep and warm as they navigated a very, very turbulent period together. Rabbi Schindler modeled how to work with political leaders with whom there were deep disagreements. I don't know, do you think that has any relevance in our world? That's a model we should raise up and we should teach and learn and internalize. So I actually took the model of Begin and Schindler very, very personally. The first time I met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way, it was a day when President Putin was in Israel to dedicate a war memorial, so I was sure he was going to cancel on me. because there was a really important president, and I'm just, Reform rabbi. He didn't. And we sat down in his office. I said, could I start? He said, Bavakasha. I said, I'm not Alexander Schindler, and you're not Menachem Begin. But I'm praying that there's something about their relationship that could inspire our ability to work together for the good of the Jewish people. Well, for a while, it actually worked. You maybe were aware that under his watch and in our partnership, there was created an egalitarian section of the Western Wall. It passed his government 15 to 5. And it looked like we were really going to catch some momentum. But then with the increasingly right-wing swing of his governments that he led, he had to walk it back. And much of the partnership and much of the commonality, it eluded us. But even with Rabbi Schindler's close relationship to Menachem Begin, Rabbi Schindler believed that he had an obligation to publicly challenge Israeli policies that he believed were flawed. Must I indulge in annexationist fantasies to prove that I am a passionate Jew? He proclaimed. Must I applaud this government's every act to demonstrate my love for Israel? Rabbi Schindler's love of Israel included a commitment to the rights of Palestinians, which set him apart literally from every other mainstream Jewish leader of that time. His critique of Israeli policy, as forceful as it might be, and it was at times very forceful, it never came from an angry place. It never came from a place of demonizing this Jewish state. It always came from the deepest love that he had not only for Menachem Begin, but for the people and the values and that relationship that should never, ever be torn apart. I believe this is still not only the best way, the only way to forge even closer ties at a very turbulent moment in the U.S.-Israel relationship. This is a moment for Begin and Schindler. This is a moment for more respect, more love, and at times, open critique. At the end of this week's Torah portion, the estranged brothers Isaac, the patriarch of the Jewish people, and Ishmael, the progenitor of the Arab peoples, reunite after many years apart. They were very estranged, and they met up for the first time in decades at the burial of their father. I hold that image of that biblical moment with the hope that Arabs and Jews can find their way, please God, to reconciliation. And one day, I know that day is not today and will not be next year, but one day, peace. This 25th anniversary must not only make us appreciate Rabbi Schindler's transformational leadership, but even more importantly, it must inspire us to have the same courage today. Today, Jews of color, political conservatives, people with disabilities, these are some of the people who don't always feel a sense of belonging in our Jewish spaces and in our Reform movement's Jewish spaces. And Rabbi Schindler's outreach program made it to the front page of the New York Times the day after he celebrated it in December of 1978. But the New York Times didn't say anything about interfaith outreach. It said that he said in his talk that we should reach out to people in America who are unchurched, is the word he used, people who have no faith, people who are not part of a Jewish family. We should be so proud of being Jewish and so confident that we should be out welcoming anyone who's looking for a relevant, inspiring, modern faith. That's our Rabbi Schindler. We're told towards the very end of the Parsha, V'Adonai berach et Avraham bakol, and the Holy One blessed Abraham bakol, with everything. Did that mean that Abraham's life was without challenge and hardship? Clearly, if you read the book of Genesis, it's kind of cataloging all the challenges, all the pain, all the disappointments of his life. But the medieval commentator Ibn Ezra suggests that Abraham was blessed with all of the things that matter most, like family, length of days, and an enduring impact on the world. Tonight, as we remember Rabbi Alexander Schindler, this giant of a man, we can be certain that he too was blessed bakol, with everything that matters most, including his extraordinary family, seated here in our sanctuary. And at this moment, we count in the link of the generations this beautiful, newest link in the chain, Alexandra Schindler. You have to feel a sense of hope and possibility, and something in the heavens was beshert about tonight. May we be inspired by Rabbi Schindler's audacity and his vision. For centuries from now, students of Jewish history will recount the deeds of this charismatic, principled, and eloquent man who refused to allow the Reform movement and the wider Jewish community to be weakened because of entrenched and limited notions of what Jewish life should be. Zichrono livracha. His memory is an inspiration. Shabbat shalom.